Yes, you're welcome to my channel. This is your boy Jacob. Now, last week we talked about how you can easily pass your IELTS with ease. So if you never saw that topic, I'm going to leave a link right there in the description section. You'll go and check out that topic. Now, this week we are going to talk about how you can prepare for your IELTS exam. Now, if you are new to this channel, here we talk about immigration, health, and entrepreneurship. So if you really enjoy my content, just consider subscribing to my channel. Click a thumbs up if you enjoy my content, and don't hesitate to make your comment right there in the comment section if there's anything you want to comment on my tutorial. Today we are going to talk about how you can prepare for your IELTS exam. There are things to consider when you are preparing for your IELTS exam. Number one, you need to know about the IELTS exam. You need to know the cost, the different types of the IELTS exams. You need to know the scores you need, the marking criteria, all those things you need to know them. Now we are going to start with the cost. Right here in my country, here Uganda, the cost of IELTS exam is around 1.14 million. When we change it to dollars, that's roughly around $300. Now that's a lot of money. But majority of candidates are either sponsored by their organizations, others are sponsored by their parents. But if you are on just a private or self-sponsorship, it's quite a lot of money. So you need to really pass the exam to avoid extra cost. So you need to pass the exam so that you don't repeat it again, because the cost is really very high for the IELTS exam. Now another thing we are going to talk about is the types of IELTS. There are two types of this exam, the general and academic. So you need to know which one to take. The general is basically for secondary students who want to study in the secondary schools in those Western countries like UK or USA. The academic is for students who want to take undergraduate programs at universities in the UK or USA. Other people who take the academic type of IELTS are people who want to work abroad, who want to immigrate and work in those countries, the USA, UK, or Canada. Those are the people who take the academic type of. The difference between the general and academic is the writing and reading. The writing and reading is different both in the general and academic, but the rest of the tests are the same. For example, in writing, when it comes to general, task 1 writing, they will need you to write a letter. But in task 1 academic, usually they give you either a pie chart or a bar graph. That's a little bit of a difference between the general and academic. The thing we are going to talk about is about the test itself. There are 4 tests which you have to take in the IELTS exam. There's speaking, listening, writing, and reading. The speaking part of IELTS is done on a different day from the other 3. Basically, speaking has 3 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. Then the listening has 4 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, and it has 40 questions which you have to answer in the listening test. Then the reading has 3 passages, very long passages which you have to take and answer questions. Then the writing has 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2. The thing we are going to talk about is the time of this test. You need to be very cautious on your time if you are to really pass this exam. Now the speaking lasts around 11 to 14 minutes, not very long. The writing lasts around 60 minutes, reading also 60 minutes, then the listening takes 30 minutes. Although 30 minutes after listening to the audios, you are given like 10 minutes for you to transfer your answers to the answer sheets. Another thing you have to know about the IELTS exam is there are 2 ways in which you can do it. You can either choose the paper type or the computer based. So when you are using the paper where you have to write and everything is on paper, that type of exam takes around 13 days for you to get your result. But when you're using the computer based, you get your result between 3 to 5 days. So the computer based is quicker than the paper type. Another thing you have to know when you are taking the IELTS exam is the scores. What scores do you need? If you are a student and you want to take an undergraduate program in the university, you need to check out with your university what scores do they need for you to get admitted in the university. But if you are doing IELTS for immigration purposes, for example, in the UK, they need an overall of a 7, then a minimum of a 7 in speaking, a minimum of a 7 in reading, a minimum of a 7 in listening, and at least a 6.5 in writing. But if you want to immigrate to USA or Canada, you need an overall of a 6.5 and at least a 7 in speaking. And another thing you need to know about the IELTS exam if you are to pass it is the marking criteria. For example, in writing, they mark you on task response, coherence and cohesion, vocabulary and grammar. They score you out of 25 in each of all those sections which you have to take. But when it comes to speaking, instead of task response, they mark you on fluency. Then the rest of the parts like coherence, vocabulary and grammar, they are the same. Lastly, another thing which will help you prepare for this exam is you need to practice. What practice materials do you need? I recommend that if you don't have money, you go for Cambridge free IELTS practice test. There are so many practice tests there on Cambridge. You just go in, you log in and see, you'll find reading, writing tests, listening, speaking. There are so many tests there. If you want to listen to the audio, you can go in, log in. They have tests of very many years there. You log in and you can do very many practice tests. You just put on the audio, and the most important thing is you need to time yourself as if you are in an exam. Do the practice, listen to the audios, write the answers, and then check back your answers and correct yourself. That is quite very important. Just go on Cambridge, log out on the test. There are so many of them. If you want to be helped, there's also a paying option for you. There's where you pay, especially in the writing. If you want to be helped in task 1 and task 2, there are paying options where you have to pay. If you want your task 1 to be looked at by an examiner, you pay. You choose any of those tests you write, and an examiner will mark you and give you guidance on how to go about your task 1. If you want your task 2 to be marked, there's also an option. You choose any of the tests you write and you send to an examiner, marks you. One is a paying option for you at Cambridge. There are also some good IELTS teachers whom I personally recommend. There's IELTS Liz, IELTS J, and IELTS Crystal. Those are very good teachers. Go out and check on their YouTube channel. They are ever teaching writing, reading, listening, speaking. They have very excellent tutorials for you. So those are some of the tips I can give you to prepare and pass your IELTS successfully.